Have you ever stopped to ask yourself a dangerous question? If every country on Earth is drowning in debt, who are they all borrowing from? Who is this invisible hand, this unseen power, that owns the debt of nations, controls the flow of money, and quietly shapes the future of our world? Because here's the truth, when you look close enough, the numbers don't make sense. The United States owes more than $35 trillion. Europe, buried under decades of loans. Asia, Africa, South America, all fighting to pay interest on money that never physically existed. And yet, someone, somewhere, is collecting the payments. They say debt is just economics, but it's more than that. It's control. It's the modern form of empire. Once, nations conquered with armies. Now, they conquer with interest rates. Every dollar, every euro, every yen you hold isn't real ownership, it's a promise. A promise backed by a system that keeps everyone owing forever. But here's where it gets strange. If every country owes someone else and every central bank owes another institution, eventually the chain should end somewhere, right? At the top, there should be a final creditor, the entity no one dares to question. So, who is it? To answer that, we have to go back, not decades, but centuries. Because the roots of global debt didn't begin with modern banks. They began the moment humans discovered the power of trust. When gold stopped being money and promises became currency. Once upon a time, nations backed their money with something real: gold, silver, land. But power wanted more. Wars demanded financing. Kings wanted empires. And so the bankers emerged, the quiet men in the background who discovered that lending to governments was far more profitable than lending to people. Because when a king borrows money, he pledges the labor of every citizen as collateral. That's where national debt was born. And from that day on, freedom and debt became the same story, told from different sides. Over time, paper replaced gold. Then numbers replaced paper. And now, algorithms replace numbers. The debt didn't disappear. It simply evolved. And the system made sure that no one ever fully paid it back, because if they did, the world economy would stop breathing. So again, who's the creditor? Is it the banks, the governments, the corporations? Or is it something much deeper, a design hidden inside the financial system itself? What if the creditor isn't a person at all? What if it's a machine that feeds on debt, one that grows stronger every time a country borrows more? This is the story of that machine, the invisible empire of debt. And to understand it, we have to follow the trail, from the first bond ever issued, to the birth of the Federal Reserve, to the global financial web that runs the modern world. Because only then will you see who truly owns everything.
Centuries ago, gold was wealth. Empires rose and fell on the weight of a coin. But gold had limits. You could only spend what you could carry, and power hates limits. So merchants began issuing notes, paper promises that said, "This note represents gold stored safely elsewhere." People trusted the paper more than the metal itself. That trust became the seed of modern finance. Then came the wars, long, expensive, endless. Kings needed weapons, ships, armies. The bankers offered loans, and with every loan, interest. When the wars ended, the bankers stayed. They had found a weapon far stronger than gunpowder: debt. By the 1700s, entire nations owed fortunes they could never repay, and so central banks were born, institutions that could create money from nothing and lend it to governments in exchange for power. From there, the pattern spread. Each new empire created its own central bank. Each central bank printed money backed not by gold, but by faith that the system would never collapse. Then, in 1913, a quiet meeting on a private island changed the world forever. A small group of bankers and politicians gathered in secret. Their goal was simple: to create a permanent engine of money, a machine that could lend endlessly and collect interest forever. That machine became the Federal Reserve, and from that moment, the world entered a new age, where every dollar was born as debt, and every debt demanded more dollars. To think about that. Money itself now required debt to survive. If no one borrowed, money would vanish. And so, the system taught every nation, every company, every person to borrow, to spend, to owe. Over time, global institutions emerged to manage this growing web: the World Bank, the IMF, the BIS, each promising stability, each offering loans to struggling nations. But the fine print told another story, because when a country accepts a loan, it doesn't just borrow money, it borrows control. It promises to follow the rules set by those who lent it, rules about trade, rules about taxes, rules about how its people must live. And when the debt becomes too heavy, the creditor steps in, not with armies, but with contracts. Ports are leased, resources sold, governments reshaped. This is the hidden empire of the modern world. No flags, no soldiers, just signatures and silence. Every global crisis creates more loans. Every rescue package creates more debt. And the cycle repeats, feeding the same invisible machine that began centuries ago. Pause. But here's the question no economist dares to ask. If this machine never stops, where does it lead? Camera zooms slowly toward the glowing center of the globe, because a system built entirely on debt can never truly rest. It must grow, or it dies. And the moment growth stops, the illusion breaks. Faint echo of coins falling, then silence.